Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine Games series and our Crazy Leela series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and it's another Rook Odds game. And well, this was a match played by a 2600 plus Lee chess player from China, and he was playing at a rather slow time control, 10 plus 5, maybe even 15 plus 10. So, I watched it live and I sort of saw it unfold, which is a very nice experience, actually. And um, yeah, what I realized actually was that the final maneuver that Leela played, which was quite a long one, I just had no idea what Leela was up to, and it struck me probably just a little bit before the player himself, but yeah, way too late as well. So yeah, just gives you a nice sense of what it's like to face Leela when you see games played at those time controls. Very interesting opening again. So let's have a look. So e4, c5, knight f3, e6, and then c3, d5, and e5. So this is quite well known with the rook on a1. It often leads back into an advanced French. You know, if black plays knight c6 is in the game, white normally plays d4 with the rook on a1. There's also a possibility that, well, it transposes very much into the game, that where black plays d4 and tries to stop white from achieving d4 himself. An absolutely classic game there, if ever you want to see an amazing hack. That's the game None against Mises in this line. I saw it played live, which is why it's stuck in my mind. 1998 or something like that. Really stunning game. But after e5, knight c6, Leela's not going to play d4 yet. Leela plays the move h4. Why not indeed? And well, again, as with all these things, you're starting to think, well, this might actually also be a reasonable move with the rook on a1. Knight e7 played and then h5. So Leela's all about restricting the development of this knight. This is always a little problem for black in the advanced French, actually, yeah, because in the Steinitz French you play knight f6 and then e5 happens and the knight moves back to d7. You've got a sort of a spot for it. Obviously, from g8 the knight can't go to f6, and now Leela's stopping the knight from going to g6 as well. It's well known in the advanced French, just not so well known when you haven't played d4 yet. So after d4, knight a3 played. That's the advantage for white. What you'll see is that this move d4 stops d4, but what white gets is the opportunity to put some pieces both on c4 and on e4. It's quite an interesting system. It's not really supposed to be thought to be that much for white, but it's always struck me as a really interesting system. Queen c7, queen e2. So the pawn on e5 is defended there. Due to a little trick here. Queen takes c5, bishop c6. You see these sort of things happening in bullet play, but shouldn't happen at longer time control. And now d3. So, yeah, I mean, one interesting thing here is that if you go knight takes c5, the move Leela's got planned is bishop takes f5, just taking the knight, and if it takes on f3, you take back like this, and there's a pin on the king. So that doesn't really work. The interesting thing is that what the engines were looking at was to go dc3 and knight takes c5. Both Torch and Stockfish played a game like this. Takes castle queenside, bishop h3, bishop d6. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with all these recommendations of the engine, I mean, what's interesting always is how quick they are to try and break up the attacking barrier. I mean, when you look at this for white, you sort of say, might take a little while for white to get going again somehow, yeah. But we're never quite sure with the engines whether they're suggesting those lines because they think they're so winning anyway they can do anything, or whether this is really, 100% the best line. But certainly the fact that white's got weaknesses and black's got a lot of free play, yeah, probably makes it certainly it's going to make it hard for white for a few moves to get at the black position, and have to watch out that you don't lose too many pawns. On the other hand, yeah, Leela doesn't care about losing pawns, which I think is a big fundamental difference with Torch and Stockfish there. So yeah, it's hard to say whether Leela would be upset by facing this. This one, I think, most probably not, to be honest. So castle's queenside was played. Feels a little bit risky in some ways, but you've got to bear in mind that obviously the king side is already got some sort of seeds of an attack there, and of course, with a there's no rook on a1, so you're missing some firepower on the queen side. So probably quite sensible from that point of view. So knight c4 played. Now the engines were doing some quite interesting things actually. I was a bit surprised by b5, but well, of course, there's no a4 to open up the queen side. But what struck me was that the engines were very keen on playing bishop c6 as soon as possible, neutralize that bishop on e4 to start with. And as always, it's just a move and a plan, right? It doesn't mean that then Leela is helpless and won't get at your king or anything. But it did strike me that that was quite concrete because it was happening an awful lot during the game. But what Black did was not silly at all. Played the move knight a5 there, just to swap off the knights, and Leela obliged and said, "Come on then, take my a2 pawn." And yeah, the engines here again, looking at stuff like Queen C7 and Bishop C6 just to swap off a pair of minor pieces. I mean, that's as far as it'll get. Leela will keep the material and everything, but it looked like a very sensible way of playing as well. But Black somehow got tempted taking the A2 pawn. And yeah, in some ways you sort of say, well, why? But on the other hand, why not? I mean, there is no immediate danger, so you might as well do it. I think the one danger for human players is that you take the material instead of actually formulating a plan. I think that's the problem sometimes. And yeah, what you're noticing then is that you don't have many ideas after taking that initial pawn, whereas taking the pawn should also be be part of a plan somehow, if you see what I mean. So yeah, I mean the engines were doing all sorts of things. I mean, one of the things that engines can do very well, it's notice this move bishop a4. They're fighting within this limited space and calculating 100% accurately that you can't get at them. For example, I think probably that if white played the move queen e1 looking to play rook a1 or rook b1, probably the engines were looking to do something like this. Just fight within that space, restrict the white pieces and make it impossible for white to get at you properly. But yeah, this is tricky for human players to do, right? We get this wrong very, very easily. So I don't think that's really a human repeatable thing. I mean, Black played the move Queen A4, and now Leela played the move C4. Surprised me a little bit, sort of closing up the lines, but Leela's got a plan for that. H6 played. By Black, stopping knight g5. That seemed reasonable to me. As I said, I was watching it live. Opponent was taking a reasonable amount of time, so I could think about it too. It seemed sort of reasonable. I couldn't really see any big attacks for white at the moment. So but yeah, Leela just plays b3 and offers the b pawn, and it's one of those decisions that's a little bit tough to think about. Really, should you take it? Should you not? The problem is that the queen's a little bit kind of trapped, right? So whether you take it or whether you don't, your queen's going to have to live in the opponent's territory there. So Black decided to take it, and white plays the move bishop a5. And of course, we know from Leela that Leela's not intending to take that rook on d8. Leela's just starting to put pressure on the queen side. But that was the interesting thing about watching it. I was looking at it and thinking, yeah, okay, it's fine. There's going to be some pressure, but is it really going to be that much? Not sure. So Black played the move bishop e7, which is very reasonable to defend. Knight e7 was also suggested by the engines, but I mean bishop e7, we're connecting the rooks there, so it should be fine. Then rook a1. Interestingly enough, the engine's looking to play the move bishop c6 here, even here, which to be honest looks really risky somehow, yeah. But the engine's wanting to do that, really feeling we should be getting rid of the opponent's activity. What Black did, you sort of see, and this is a tendency of human players, you do notice that you sort of play a little bit passively somehow, and don't you know that you want to exchange off that light square bishop, so you've got to fight for it. But instead, black players against Leela at odds, you often have the feeling that they're ending up playing rather um, holding moves all the time because you just don't see where the danger is coming from, and then somehow it hits you, and then it's all too late. You haven't ended up doing very much somehow. It's a decent defensive move there, but it's leaving the white pieces unchallenged. So that's yeah. That there's for the moment it's going to be all about white pressing, and there's nothing happening. I mean, the white position is completely safe here. So rook b2, and then queen a4. Probably, maybe not the. I think wonder whether queen a3 might have been safer, but yeah. On the other hand, in case of stuff like queen a3, you're starting to get to the place where you're going to start seeing draws by repetition, which of course you've taken rook odds somehow. You should be going for the win really, not for a repetition. If Leela even wanted that. Queen e1. So I was sort of saying, how is Leela going to do this? Because it's not really, I mean, you've got some pressure on the b file, right? But you can cover it quite okay. The one thing that you should notice with this move rook d7, it's protecting the pawn on b7. That's fine. But now the queen on a4 hasn't got a way back, which should maybe start making some little alarm bells there. Leela just carried on with bishop b6. I mean, Leela has got plenty of time here because there's no pressure at all on the king side here. I mean, actually, the engines were saying, well, we should start trying to free some things up, right? But I mean, this is a better free yourself, get the queen back into play. But yeah, this is by no means the end of the attack, right? It's just starting somehow. So yeah. Just shows that the position's maybe a little tricky. I mean, g6 was played by black, so you're looking to try and get an open g file and start hitting black, hitting white. And then Leela started making some moves, and I was sort of thinking, yeah, that's quite nice, but is it really going to lead to a breakthrough somehow? G takes h5, knight d2, rook g8, knight b3, and I was thinking, oh, we're going to take on c5, maybe. Yeah, there'll maybe be some danger there, or or are we going to try knight a5 and some knight c6s? Yeah, I can see some danger brewing there. But what I had really totally missed, it was only when actually I think more or less when black played h4, I suddenly thought, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what's happened? Because Leela's plan, very simply, is nothing dramatic about it. It's to go rook a2 and bishop a5 and win the queen. And yeah, all the bad things that could have happened with that queen have actually happened. It was just totally unexpected for me. That bishop was on there attacking, we were going forwards, and then just a backward move, just trapping the queen. So actually black's position is apparently not so bad, only a slight advantage for white at the moment. But after takes c5, the opponent resigned. H5 was maybe not such a good move. But yeah, black resigned here because actually, to be honest, I mean, I thought it was very nasty. We're just going c6 here, and then afterwards following up with knight a5. I mean, it looks horrible to me, to be honest. Knight a5 immediately is also a possibility at times. So there we are. Just a very interesting game played against a strong lead chess player. At a slow time control. And yeah, you just got to experience it in a slightly different way there. And yeah, I mean, it's just I think what I took away from it was that yeah, yeah, Leela's always got an idea. I mean, I've had this a number of times now, watching slower games where you're sort of thinking, I don't really see the idea somehow. It's like Leela's playing planlessly, and all of a sudden something hits you. So I think you've just got to assume that Leela's always got an idea, and evaluate and calculate on the basis of that. And also, yeah, I think this whole episode where instead of playing the bishop to c6 somehow, the black ended up putting the bishop on c8. I think that's a very telling episode, because I think that's how a lot of games are going at the moment, that achieving your goal, bishop c6, is not necessarily that easy, but it's something that you should be fighting for and fighting to achieve. And if you don't fight to achieve that, it all looks safe when you do it, right? And it all looks fine for another 10 or 12 moves. But just the fact that you haven't got very much potential in your position just gives Leela an ability to find stuff. And I think the most surprising thing, that's been the amazing thing about odds, is that I was always assuming, and that was always my experience somehow, that you just run out of steam, when you're giving such big odds like that, that you're just missing attacking pieces, and that you needed those in order to be able to do anything. But yeah, what we're seeing with Leela at odds is it's just the efficiency of its pieces is just so much greater than human players manage, that it's missing the piece much less. And to be fair, I mean, that's what we've seen with normal chess, that the engines are so much more efficient at deploying their pieces, at achieving multiple things. That was very much what I felt playing Crazy Leela, and in all these games, that I felt that somehow its pieces were moving faster. I mean, I got some sort of equal position sometimes out of the opening, and then yet somehow I just seemed to, the gap just seemed to increase. I just seemed to, my pieces seemed to get slower and Leela seemed to get faster. So yeah, I think that's a key thing about it. But just, my takeaway about it is that you just don't let yourself get into these situations, because these end up being really difficult to deal with. And the best thing to do is to try and fight back, and if you've got a positional goal, swap off light square bishops, then you fight for it, and you do everything that you can to make it happen. And I think, by the way, that's also a really important thing about playing playing normally against humans. It's one of the lessons I actually had about playing stronger and stronger players, the elite players, that I sort of noticed that I needed to concentrate it to the utmost and make each one of my moves as meaningful as possible. Meaningful, that's a very go term, a very Japanese term, I think, but it's a good one, that every move should have as much content as it possibly can, and that just losing your concentration for a few moves and making a few nondescript moves, that was often enough just to throw you off completely against these players, because suddenly none of your ideas work anymore because you've just wasted a couple of tempi. It's really important to keep that enormous concentration, and that's why top level chess is so tiring. It's so yeah, there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. Found it a really interesting game. And well, keep your eyes peeled for lots more videos. Got a massive amount of tactics videos coming up, so those seem to have had a good reception so far, so loads more of those, including loads on the Queen Odds ones, which are just hilarious. Not too difficult, I think. I think loads of them very, very easily solvable. They're not meant to be difficult, but they're just meant to show what Leela is coming up with at all these moments with the different odds. Really impressive. So thanks very much, everyone. Do give a like and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos, and hope to see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.